and she teethed me on some type of a birch bark or something when I was a baby. And she was really magnificent. And I think that some women can carry that, and it's their nature. And it's who they are. And I think other people, like Colin, if Colin didn't wear makeup, I think I'd be really disappointed.
Right. But I also wondered, though, if the question was more practical in terms of, from a professional standpoint, when I'm applying makeup on a client, how do I cover the curl lines without leaving them cakey? So that's how I read the question.
That was the question.
It was just that simple,
Like,
right?
is there something like a line
A little
filler
trick.
that you put in?
We need the tricks of the trade, is what
I
you're
bet
saying, right?
Diane, as well as knowing how to be beautiful without the
Exactly.
makeup, I bet she knows the trick.
That's why I was saying the trick. We need the trick, Nadia.
Yeah, or the trick is don't put foundation on, because the crow's feet will show stronger.
But
so if
So she gave us the answer both ways.
But that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if you're
it still
No,
remains
for
a
the crow's
problem.
feetish.
I guess, I work a lot as a photo assistant for a photographer, and he does nudes and beautiful work, and most of his models are very natural, but for specific things, they do have makeup on, and it's a little more intense. So what, in your experience, works that maintains that natural glow if a woman is
I actually kind of
46
agree. I
or-
actually agree with Diane, because when I was a little girl, my aunt always had crow's feet when I
Right.
was really little, and I thought they called them smile-ons when I was a kid.
Right.
So what Diane is saying is that putting makeup on will make them look crusty and accentuate
More
them,
dry.
which is what Colin said. That maybe the answer is you don't, like, let them be cute and adorable.
Yeah, but that's like saying I want world peace and you're in a beauty pageant. It's not going to happen. You think millions of people, where there's billions of dollars a year in makeup and skincare, all of a sudden we're going to have a worldwide no eye makeup
We have a
movement?
moisturizer,
It's not going to
right, so that
happen.
they're maybe softened, but I don't know.
I was thinking that there might be something that you put on, not preparation age, but that like when you're doing a wall and before you paint it, you smooth it out,
primer?
like priming
There
it.
is skin primer.
Because I'm not in makeup, so it was just a concern. Does anyone have a trick? There may not be a trick.
Well, I don't know.
And so that leaves the opportunity to create it and think of how many millions we could make.
Now that I think we have Janet back, right, Letitia, I think we were ready to introduce you, my dear.
Hey, so my name is Misfit Dior. I was born in Sussex and then grew up in London, lived in Ibiza for a few years, came back to London, and in 2003 I moved to New York. It was New Year's Eve, I think, around at like 11 p.m. I had to race to get to the club, so I wouldn't miss midnight. And I started as a model actress and transitioned to musician, which is what I do now.
And she seems a little tired. She flew in from London last night, and it's an awfully long
Also.
trip to fly.
Yeah.
So-
Are your
so-
wings tired?
And since you're a little bit tired, why don't we get you to draw a card and let you off the
Sounds
hook?
like a plan. Right. I think I'm gonna grab this one. Okay. What is the purpose of your life?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
But I would like to answer that since I wrote the question.
Yay.
I'm committed. So I wrote, what is the purpose of your life? I underline your, not the purpose of life, but what is, if I'm answering, what is the purpose of my life? I think ever since I could have any conscious thought, I'm here to become awake. That's what I want. So that is the purpose of my life, is to be awake, because if I didn't, I couldn't be in the business that I do. I couldn't live in New York City with the madness. And I was thinking, I'm in the fashion business, which is probably the single most narcissistic, egotistical, hellish business. And yet it has beautiful people and intellects and liberalism and diversity. It has amazing creativity.
I worked at
But,
Wilhelmina for 10 years.
Wilhelmina, so,
No,
yeah.
Wilhelmina.
Yeah.
Oh, Wilhelm, it was a double
That's where we
L.
met.
Wilhelmina.
And then, so when I wake up in the morning and I know I'm going to go to Fashion War, which is the experience I usually have, I actually consciously think of, and be, how I can be awake in this moment. How can I correct myself to be an adult and not a reactive child? How can I encourage my team members of the designer to, you know, my definition of spirituality, one of those is to become an adult. I know that sounds very strange, but because most of us are reactive from childhood, and things that don't work in our life is from our reactions from things that we're carrying from the past. So being in the moment is really being an adult. And I actually, you know, Jei actually is my healer, if I may say, and you know, he calls me out when I'm being 17. I'm lucky to be 17.
So I'm not allowed
Somebody
to
go
be 5
9.
anymore?
9. Sometimes they'll say I'm 9, and I don't take offense to that, because we all have those things. You know, this is the whole world of psychotherapy, right? Which I think is a dead world right now. But so that's it. My purpose in life is to become awake.
No, that's interesting because I don't know a lot about it, but I keep hearing a lot about this guy Gurdjieff, and I think that there's a whole, his whole concept is awake. If I'm not mistaken, I'm seeing BB shaking her head yes. I think that even the term, I don't even know how it works, but I read that the whole process is called awake. Is that correct, too?
It's deep.
Right, but I think that's the word they
Yeah,
use, is
in
that,
part.
right, that's interesting. What's it, neat coincidence. So I'm not allowed to be 5 anymore, Jay, is that true?
Well, you know, Nyan, I think it's more possible to eliminate eye makeup than it is to create awake. I think there are too many people on the planet that have gone into a deep coma. You know, I go on Facebook, and because I've lived in so many places, and I do think there is a geographic problem where people in this country do congregate. You know, they've created ghettos for themselves, where if the government put them into those ghettos, they would be absolute uprising. But you go, being from Cleveland, we're a city surrounded by 88 suburbs, and each of the 88 suburbs has a unique kind of person living in it. Like, if you're from such and such a place, oh, you're Slovenian. If you're from such a place, then you're Polish. But those people never intersect. They never meet. So to become awake, you have met people who travel, like most of us in New York. She just came back from Egypt. She just came back from England. This is common for us living in New York. We live in a very special place. But how can we bring the awakeness? I mean, look at the group here, how diverse we are. When I go home to Cleveland, I don't see any people except with blue eyes and rosacea in the neighborhoods I go to. So I miss the diversity. How can we break down the paranoia of fearing one another that's blowing up our world?
You just said such a brilliant word to me about being in a coma. Because so if I'm going back to what is the purpose of my life, I don't want to be in a coma. And
Me either.
being in a coma is looking at your nail polish. I'm looking at your nail polish, Colin, saying, why is a man wearing nail polish? That is not being awake to me. That one instance, so Slovenian, whatever, but that judgment, which I do love your nail polish, by the way,
Thank
on your
you.
toes.
Thank you.
I love that. You know.
It's midnight.
But
It's
that
midnight brown.
judgment, that judgment is not me being awake.
And you know what's odd, Diane, speaking of diversity, because I've become very expressive through my dress for reasons. I told someone when I first moved to New York, and it was during the black clothing period, I would pass by, and here I am, a radical. I'm a person that grew up in this very strict religious upbringing, you know, mountain people, close to the Bible. The first thing I did was break away from religion, and in order to do so, I went through the South burning down churches. So for me to be mistook as a Catholic priest walking down the street of New York, "Good morning, Father." I thought, what am I doing wrong? And the thing I was doing wrong is I had this Irish face dressed in black. So how did I combat that? I painted my toenails. And so I now ride in the subway, sometimes the only person that looks like me, and if someone says anything at all, they say, "I love your nails." And sometimes it can be a big kind of frightening person if I still lived in one of those 88 suburbs in Cleveland. And being here, I'm not afraid of people from, black communities, Middle Eastern communities. In fact, I embrace all of them. Can you imagine taking any one of these ingredients out of New York City? It would not be the tasty pot that it is.
I would love to.